Well, we're here on a windy day in Ardmore with Steve Upson, horticulturist, and this is the Horticulture Center of the Noble Foundation. And Steve is going to tell us a little bit about raised beds. So Steve, in your opinion, what are the major benefits of gardening with raised beds?
Steve, probably the foremost benefit would be drainage. Increased drainage, especially is critical during the spring when we have our downpours. Too much water in the soil dries out the oxygen. The roots just won't perform properly. So if we can elevate the growing surface with the use of beds, we can increase the drainage, increase the oxygen supply to the roots, get better plant growth.
Okay, that oxygen is definitely important in the root zone.
Definitely. Another advantage would be soil warming. When you raise that volume of soil above the grade, it has more exposure to the sun's rays. We'll warm up. We can hasten warming with the use of mulch, plastic mulch in particular. Most folks use black plastic because it's readily available, it's a little cheaper, and will last longer than clear, but we'll just cover the bed with black plastic, and that tends to conduct the heat, the solar energy. A lot of people don't understand how black plastic, which is opaque, but the sunlight will hit the surface of the black, and then of course it heats up the plastic, and that's conducted to the soil.
Okay.
So that's an excellent way to play on the advantages of raised beds.
All right. I guess another benefit would be easier access to the plants.
Yeah. This particular garden right here, of course, is for ornamentals, but it's high, it's raised, so it's easier to care for the flowers or vegetables, depending on what you're growing. It's easier to harvest, easier to weed, and of course, if you build it high enough, you can sit on the side.
Oh,
right?
That's always a benefit
for us older folks, right?
Yeah. Let's head over this way. I guess this is more of an ornamental type design, but you have other beds here that would be a good utilitarian type design,
Sure.
good for vegetable gardening.
We try not to build them too wide. We need to be able to, to reach across, and standard size for most people would be about 4 feet. We tend to make ours a little narrower. We have a lot of kids that visit here. We just find that it works well. This is kind of the dimensions that we'll use also for our commercial beds. That they're a little smaller, made of cheaper materials.
Okay.
40 inches wide. It's a good width.
I guess another really good thing is you can create your own soil, and
Right.
you guys have got a
That's
really
good
nice
stuff right
soil
there.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, we combine just field soil, a loam soil, with appropriate amount of compost. Depending on the texture of the soil will determine the amount of compost we'll put in, but over the years we can develop quite a high organic matter content, which also helps in moisture holding capacity.
What would be some disadvantages of raised bed gardening?
Well, cost, building these beds with construction materials like lumber here is going to cost you quite a bit. Matter of fact, this bed here is going to be over $100 for the lumber alone. Another disadvantage would be they drain well, and that's an advantage in the spring. We have all our rain, but in the summertime, you need to manage your water a little closer. You bet, because they do drain better than soil that's on the level in a traditional garden setting.
Okay. And there's, I guess, a little bit of a controversy on using treated lumber for vegetable plantings.
Right. We understand that the manufacturers of the arsenic material that is used to treat wood have voluntarily, agreed to remove the process, or not treat wood, I should say. And most of this arsenic-treated wood should be cycled through the market in 2 years. So we're going to be looking for alternatives to pressure-treated wood using arsenic.
Okay.
I would mention that this is voluntary. The EPA and the government's not requiring them to do this. They're doing this because of potential lawsuits, but there's no evidence that this has harmed people in any way. from university studies. So if you have a bed made of pressure-treated lumber, whether it be landscape timbers or 2x material, don't destroy it. It's okay.
So don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go take a look at some alternative raised bed materials.
Great.
So Steve, what are these raised beds made out of?
These beds are a different kind of bed made of a material that most people throw away in the form of used tires.
All right.
We came up with this process, oh gosh, about 6 years ago, and we've tried to refine it, and we feel like we've got a product that can be used, can replace lumber, and it will last longer. It's environmentally friendly, obviously, because we're taking it out of the dump in the form of the tires. It lasts forever. I don't know if anybody really knows how long a tire will last in the outside.
Sure.
But we've had good luck with it so far, and we have every reason to believe that it'll last and perform well for a long, long time.
Okay. How long have these beds been here?
This will be, I think, the 6th year for
6
these.
years. And they look just like they did when you put them in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, this is, of course, a good way to grow strawberries. And you got the black plastic stretched real tight over these raised beds. And if you would just give us some examples of why this is a good way to grow strawberries.
Well, again, we're reemphasizing the importance of using a mulch to help heat the bed. We're using it primarily for earliness. We'll force these plants out of dormancy a little earlier. They look a little rough right now. We've had some low temperature a couple weeks ago. Got a little browning on these outer leaves, but the new growth will emerge, and they'll look great in a few weeks. But so we're providing a better root environment for the root system, growing environment, I should say, for the root system. We're keeping weeds down. We are elevating the surface a little bit to, again, help harvest. The fruit that the plants will produce will lie on this plastic. We don't have quite as much fruit rot. And that's important. Boy, when it's moist, we get a lot of soft rot on the fruits. So
they just end up being a lot cleaner, I would.
A lot cleaner. And the disease overall is a little less with plastic mulch.
Okay. So how do you water the plants?
We have drip irrigation, 2 lines in this bed. I've dug this one out of the ground. We try to bury them an inch or 2 deep, but you can see this, the line here. This is what we call a hard hose, different from a what we call, as referred to in the industry as drip tape, that's commercially used for vegetable production. This is just like a poly pipe you'd buy at the plumbing store, a little smaller in diameter. It's about a 1/2 inch. It has emitters extruded in the manufacturing process. They're extruded inside of the pipe, so it's smooth. So there's nothing to hang on when you go to move it. You pull it out, it's not going to rip the emitter off.
So it's pretty durable.
Very durable.
Yeah.
And you can see the little emitter here, and I believe you can see the water dripping from it. This is what we call a tortuous path emitter. It's got a labyrinth of little runs in there, little channels. And the water will come through the pipe at 15 pounds pressure. It enters this labyrinth, and just the friction loss running through that channel, that labyrinth, reduces the pressure till it just dribbles out. And that's what we call a drip irrigation. Or trickle irrigation.
And you prefer this type over some of the other hoses that leak throughout the entire surface.
You can run lengths of this a lot longer. Plus, it's much more uniform. That's the primary advantage for homeowners. You get even distribution of water, whereas with some of the other products, you've got to do a really, really good job and have short runs to have uniform application of water. You don't have uniform application, you have difference in growth rates. You're overwatering some things, underwatering some things. In my opinion, this is the best stuff to use. You can buy it, homeowners can buy it. There's something similar to this in the home improvement centers. Various models
All
are
right.
various brands.
Okay, well,
Available.
it certainly looks rugged, and and again, you guys buried about 2 inches.
1 to 2 inches.
Okay.
When we make the bed before we put the plastic on.
Okay. Well, Steve, I sure appreciate it. Thanks for showing us around the center here.
You're very welcome.
All right.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.